Hey folks, first I've got some announcements. First and foremost, I am about to launch my first course over on First Movers, the platform that Julia McCoy and I have built around maximizing your benefit for artificial intelligence. Now, this first course that I've got, it'll go live in a couple weeks. You can go over and sign up now, but it is about how I use these tools for research purposes. Another announcement that I've got is that the book that we're working on, The Great Decoupling, which is about post-labor economics, how we got where we're at and where we're going from here, that is going to be, we're going to have the launch page of that up sometime soon. I'm still looking for a publisher and or an agent, but the book is done. And then finally, I have split off all of my post-labor economics content onto its own dedicated channel. So this channel will focus exclusively on artificial intelligence. So with all that being said, let's get into it. We've got a lot to cover today, starting with OpenAI and Stargate. We're going to move into Nvidia, Meta, Oracle, Google DeepMind, as well as some layoffs that are going on. So let's dive right in. First and foremost, OpenAI has been working really hard on Stargate. Now, they've just announced that they're going to build a 1 gigawatt Stargate data center in India, on top of the multi-gigawatt data centers that they're working on here in the States with Oracle. Now, what I really want to unpack with this is there's kind of this trend that's emerging where you see that they are compute constrained. Everyone knows that. You know, are we going to get enough chips? Is Taiwan going to get invaded? Those kinds of things are top of mind for everyone when they look to the future, because you know the AI is not really slowing down. The saturation is, as far as we can tell, accelerating, which we'll talk about with the layoffs. But what really it comes down to is, what is the scarcity? What is the moat? And I don't know if it was Sam Altman said this, but the industry consensus is that energy and the energy grid, and then the supply chain, as well as the actual real estate to build a data center, that is really becoming the moat. So you look at Meta with the Hyperion data center, you look at X.AI's gigantic data centers as well. So wherever you have the power and wherever you have the chips, that's really becoming the moat, which of course, that is capital intensification, which leads to elite capture and those sorts of things. So like on the one hand, I'm glad that they're investing the literally hundreds of billions of dollars into data centers. And it's not just one company, it's many companies. However, geopolitics and utility scale is really becoming kind of the next biggest bottleneck in the rollout for next generation AIs. So I talked about this a little bit in my last video, so I don't feel like I need to belabor the point, so we can move on. Another announcement out of OpenAI is that they acquired StatSig, which interestingly enough, Anthropic was using StatSig. So this is leading to their new product strategy. So this is another thing I mentioned in my most recent video, which is that they are actually refining their product strategy as a company. And so the core feature that they're going to enable with this acquisition of StatSig is that they're going to roll out faster A/B testing. So A/B testing, if you're not familiar with it, is where you create two versions of a product and you spam, version A out to population A of your users and version B out to population B of your users, and you see which ones use it better or which ones have a better experience. This is something that has been pioneered by two primary companies, which is Amazon and Facebook before it was Meta. So basically, they would have a feature idea, they'd launch a feature. I think at the highest rate, Amazon and Meta were launching something like 5,000 features a day. Now, that doesn't mean that it was a gigantic change to the platform. Sometimes there were small algorithm changes. Sometimes it was UX changes or UI changes, those kinds of things. But that is the epitome of rapid iteration. And so the reason I'm sharing this is because I personally think that this is the correct way to go. Once you get over the idea that like AI is going to kill everyone and it's going to immediately transform into ASI and FOOM and all that stuff, it's just another software product. Now, I can see lots of people being upset by that idea because it's like saying that AI is just another software product. I mean, there's lots of AI skeptics out there that say it's just SaaS. I mean, those people are on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a very silly place, and I try and avoid going to LinkedIn as much as possible. But as a professional, I need to have a presence there. But the point is that once you get over the starry-eyed veneer and head in the clouds, and you just say, let's just treat this like any other product, and so it's going to get better faster. That, I hope, will lead to faster resolution of some of the issues that we've seen with models like GPT-5. Now, they're not going to be able to A/B test entire model runs. As far as I can tell, what they're going to be A/B testing is things like memory, system prompts, and those sorts of things. Now, that's better than nothing, because once you have a very smart baseline model, they might also have different fine-tuned versions, but I don't really know how the software architecture is going to be. I can imagine lots of ways that they could do it, but I don't want to get too far ahead of the skis. Another thing that they're going to be doing, and I was a little bit skeptical when I first saw this news, but they're gonna be rolling out parental controls for ChatGPT, which I think is really interesting. That shows you the level to which they are wanting to be cemented in as a consumer product. And so they're bringing in 250 doctors from around the world. And at first I was like, really, this is why I was skeptical about this news bit from OpenAI, is because I was like, the last thing that we need is more doctors, because then they're going to teach the model to think like a human doctor, and they're going to say, oh, well, it should do X, Y, and Z, and it will basically just be duplicating, the way that all the things wrong with working with human physicians, where we could keep alien intelligence. However, that's not exactly what they're doing. What they're focusing on is safety and crisis intervention, which is a very specific discipline. And so with that in mind, I'm like, okay, they saw the news about AI psychosis. They've seen the news where people have had really bad outcomes, and it is a minority of cases. But at the same time, people post screenshots of, like, there was one where someone was using ChatGPT to, I think it was posted on Reddit. They were using it to edit a video, and they're like, I just want it to end at this frame. And it picked up on the phrase, I just want it to end, and it changed this topic entirely from editing a video to, there's always help out there, you should call this number right now. And it's just like, really? Like, this model needs to be smarter than that. It needs to be smart enough to understand the context, and it is smart enough. So that really comes down to just bad training, bad design, that kind of thing. I think that we've all seen enough wrong with GPT-5 that we can move on. So the next topic that I want to cover is Nvidia. So Nvidia has posted record revenue, but one of the things that people spotted is that most of their revenue comes from just the top few buyers. I think their biggest buyer accounts for around 40% of their total income. So it's like, who is that whale? So that leads back to something I mentioned earlier, which is capital concentration and capital intensification. So when you look at who is able to buy all of these Blackwell chips, all of these high-end GPUs, that is basically who's going to own the future. And I don't know who it is off the top of my head. I don't think that they shared. We could all speculate as to who it is. But another component of this is the geopolitical tension. So this is going to figure in a lot more into AI conversations in the coming years, more so than it has. And that is China. China. All right, this is not news. This is my interpretation. This is me editorializing. But there's plenty of rumors out there, and there's plenty of evidence. Nvidia chips keep showing up in China. So either Nvidia is selling to intermediaries that are then selling it to China, or Nvidia is trying to skirt the law. Who knows? It doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is that Nvidia chips keep showing up in China. And then, of course, you've got Taiwan. TSMC is one of the premier providers of silicon wafers in the entire world, which is seen as a dramatic geopolitical risk, which is one of the reasons why I particularly, whenever I see news about them bringing silicon producers onshore in America, I think that that's better for the entire world. And the reason I say that that's better for the entire world is, one, you don't want a global supply chain disruption of chips. That's just bad for everyone, because it's not just AI chips, right? It's medical devices, it's cars, it's airplanes, it's all kinds of stuff. But it's also better for China and America, in my opinion, because it relieves a tension point. It relieves some tension over Taiwan, and it says, okay, we don't have to fight over Taiwan anymore. Whether or not China invades Taiwan, I personally think that that's like a vanishing possibility. I think that China is too prudent to try and invade Taiwan unless they know that it's going to work. But they're watching what's happening in Ukraine, and they're like, this is going to be harder to do than we think. Anyways, moving on from geopolitics, next up is Meta talent. So Meta went on a hiring binge where they were, offering rumors up to $1 billion signing contracts for frontier AI researchers for their Meta Superintelligence Lab, MSL. So they hired really fast. They hired a lot. They poached talent from all over. But then people started leaving. And then they did a hiring freeze, and then they did a reorg. And I remember seeing a tweet, and I don't know if this tweet or rumor or whatever is true, but the tweet read something like, whenever Mark Zuckerberg talks about superintelligence, what he's really thinking is a self-improving algorithm that can just keep people watching reels for longer. That he's not actually thinking in terms of general intelligence or building something that's going to really change the future, that all he's doing is thinking of optimizing his own platforms. Now, again, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that is just someone being salty. It was apparently a leak from insiders, but again, it came from the internet, so take it for what it's worth. Your mileage may vary. But at the same time, I saw that rumor, and then here we are a month later, and a bunch of top researchers are leaving Meta because of bad culture fit, because of bad mission, because they're not really convinced that their time is best served at Meta. And many of them have gone back to OpenAI. And so it's like, all right, reading the tea leaves, what does that mean? Does it mean that Mark is just delusional in what he thinks superintelligence is? Does he not know how to run a team? Are all these people, if you write me a check for $100 million, what level of misalignment would that require for me to say, actually, I'm not going to give this a shot. I'm going to go back to where I was, because that's a lot of money. Again, read between the lines. It's kind of not surprising, especially when you look at some of the books that have been released about Mark Zuckerberg that says that he's just relentlessly in pursuit of social status and money and nothing else. And of course, you look at all the scandals that Facebook has been involved in over the years, and yeah, that kind of reads like it's not like Mark Zuckerberg has suddenly become a different person. He's the same guy who was involved in the Cambridge Analytica scandal because he allowed his platform to do that. And that's kind of off. There's a reason that I deleted my Facebook account many years ago and never looked back. So, all right, well, you get the idea. We can move on. Now we're going to be talking about Oracle again. Oracle has come up a few times in this video, and that was not necessarily by design. It's just they're in the news. So not only is Oracle working with OpenAI to build out Stargate, and this is actually relevant, Oracle also announced a ton of layoffs, everything from senior vice presidents to sales, to engineers, and everyone in between. And the reason that they're doing this is because they're pivoting to focus on AI data centers and to better align with OpenAI's mission. So it seems like Oracle is going all in. One of the rumors, and again, this comes from the internet, so take it with a grain of salt, but one of the rumors is that Oracle is looking to lay off up to 10% of their entire workforce as they pivot. Now, that might sound like a lot, but in Silicon Valley, a 7% per annum churn rate is actually kind of the default. Back when I worked at Cisco Systems, we were actually below that, but then we got a new CEO, and the new CEO was like, all right, let's turn the churn rate back up, and then the culture at Cisco was completely destroyed because everyone was worried about their jobs. And there is nothing more ruthless or vicious than a tech company where everyone is suddenly worried about their jobs. And that's all I'll say on that matter. If you know, you know. So on the bigger trend of layoffs, Salesforce announced that they're laying off 4,000 of their support people, some of their CSRs, their customer service representatives, and that they are able to do that because they're replacing them with AI agents. And so that they took their support staff from 9,000 they laid off 4,000 and now they have 5,000 left. So that's a 45% reduction in their CSR footprint. When you extrapolate out, now, of course, call centers, that's nothing new. We've seen AI agents kind of infringing upon call center jobs for a while, for a few years now. But when a big company, Salesforce, does that, and it's a 45% reduction, they are pretty darn sure that this is going to work out. And if you think, okay, well, that's technically, it's a low end white collar job, but it's a white collar job because you're working in an office and you have to have technical competence and that sort of thing. That should give everyone in technology or IT or any office job pause, because a 45% reduction in any white collar domain, and of course AI is only going to get better from here, and it's only going to get more integrated from here. That is going to really have spillover effects, because it's not just like, oh, well, we can lay off 45% of this group. Those people are then going to go try and get other jobs elsewhere. And this is what I call labor refugees. So the labor refugee is either going to try and get another job like what they got, but now they're competing with everyone else who's been laid off, or they're going to go into another domain and they're going to basically make the market favor employers rather than employees or job seekers, because when you have a labor glut, that depresses wages. So every time we have a big chunk of one domain that's infringed upon without a commensurate creation of new jobs, it's gonna progressively get worse and worse, and it gets worse faster than you might think. So this is why I'm sharing this, is keep an eye on it. Oracle, likewise, rumored to have laid off about 3,000 people and aiming for 10% of their workforce. Now, again, some of that is just normal business as usual, but in other cases, some of those jobs are not coming back. This has more downstream effects. And the last bit that I'll talk about for layoffs is the entry-level squeeze. So you've probably seen out there that, everyone has heard new grads are having a harder time getting jobs, particularly in STEM and most in computer science, CS majors. So AI exposed junior roles are down 13%. So that's for ages 22 to 25. Entry-level postings are down 15% year over year, while applications are surging. So that's one of the things that you'd expect. More people want jobs because more people have been laid off, and they're competing with newcomers to the job market. That is a lot, and it's only going to compound from here as far as I can tell. If I had seen evidence of new jobs being created at a higher rate, or entirely new job categories being created at a rate that could absorb that, that would be one thing. But it's really not. Prompt engineering, great, that's a new job. AI oversight, AI ethicists, great. Those are new jobs that are hiring, but they're not hiring the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people that are being laid off by automation. So that's that. And then the final thing that I want to talk about today is a little bit from Google DeepMind. So there's two pieces of information that came out of Google DeepMind in the last week or two. So one is RoboBallet, which if you look at the video, it's pretty cool. At first glance, it's not that interesting because it's just, coordinating robot arms. But it looks very sci-fi when you look at the ability to coordinate up to 8 arms, doing 40 tasks and planning on the fly. That's one of the biggest things, is that it's planning on the fly and it's coordinating multiple arms on novel tasks, meaning it can adapt. One of the biggest differences between old school industrial engineering and what this is showing is that originally you had to program manual repetitive motions, and it didn't really have as much feedback or planning. Now, they did say that it is still in research stage, but this is the direction that things are going, which is using digital twins and these planning abilities to really, really accelerate automation in the physical world. And this will have many, many compounding impacts, not just on automobiles, but on building robots as well. And that's why one of the things that I'm most excited, and people have been posting memes of C-3PO when he stumbles into the droid factory, says like, machines making machines, how perverse. And it's like, that's really where we're going. We're going for the droid factories. That's what we want to see in the next 5 to 10 years is droid factories spun up that are producing 10,000 units a day, 100,000 units a day, because we're going to need to get that rate globally if we want to get to 1 billion humanoid robots in any reasonable amount of time, because that is many orders of magnitude more than just 10,000 units a year. If we produce 10,000 units a year, it's going to take centuries to get to the billion units. So we really need to scale up to the point that we're producing millions, tens of millions of humanoid robots per year. And then finally, Jeff Dean, who is the, what is he, the CTO at DeepMind? I'm sorry, I just had a brain fart and I don't have it in my notes. But he was over on the Moonshot podcast with Peter Diamandis. And one of the things that he said is that he avoids using the term AGI. It's not well defined, but what he does look at is that he focuses on what models actually do. And he says models beat most people on non-physical tasks. And the only thing that they haven't surpassed on non-physical tasks is highly specialized roles. And of course, they still make stupid mistakes sometimes. But at the same time, when you look at objectively what AI is capable of doing and the rate of that change, yes, AGI is a useful idea to say like, hey, what is it that we're building? But according to most people, AGI does not exist. And then depending on who you ask 8 different people, you get 10 different definitions of AGI. So this is something that I have been trying to say, that people like Sam Altman have been trying to say, which is AGI is not a useful term. Yes, I did predict that we would have AGI by September 2024. And as far as I'm concerned, we do have AGI. It's a general purpose, general intelligence that can reason, that can plan, it can solve problems, it can code, it can predict the future really well, it can invest better than most people, and those kinds of things. When we got the reasoning models, to me, close enough. But for many people, they keep moving the goalposts. But again, that's what happens when you have a poorly defined abstract idea that's disconnected from reality, rather than something that is just, let's look at what's actually happening. All right, thanks for bearing with me and watching to the very end. So if you want more, I've got several communities out there. Everything is in my link tree. Link is in the description. I've got a Discord community. You can get access to that via Patreon. I've got 2 learning communities. I've got New Era Pathfinders, which is a forum for like-minded people who are just trying to figure out how to adapt. I've also got my burnout recovery community. And then, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, over on First Movers. Now, if you sign up through my link, then you'll get, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it's $50 off on your monthly subscription. So thanks for watching to the end and have a good one. Cheers.